Hello, so now I'll be talking about JSON. JSON is not JSON. JSON is the name of a guy. JSON is JavaScript object notation. It's kind of different because this is programming, not exactly a Rick Riordan character. So let's kind of look at what exactly JSON is, how to use it, and I guess more specifically, what can be done with it. So firstly, you have to understand that JSON is not exactly just a data type. It's also a file type, technically. And you will see JSON a lot. You'll see it in configuration files and many other things. Especially if you're a software developer, you'll see this quite a lot. Though I'm not sure if that job is going to exist in the next couple of years, but you will be seeing a lot of code bases use JSON at the very least. So let's get right into it. Let's look at what JSON can do and how you can kind of use it. So firstly, it's a library that you have to import if you're using Python to mess with JSON. In this case, import JSON, that simple. Now, do you remember how your dictionaries work in Python? Well, JSON is kind of similar in some sense. So let's say we have some JSON syntax. Let's say words, for example. And then in this, you have a bunch of different characteristics. So firstly, you have name, right? And your name could be, for example, Jack. And then after that, your age could be, let's say, 99. And after that, you could say that your level of education, let me just put ed, could be maybe, let's say, primary school. So let's assume that this is kind of the profile of a guy called Jack. And again, we need a kind of a way to turn it into a Python renderable dictionary. Well, if we run this, it's perfectly acceptable. Again, they just treat it as a string. So it's perfectly acceptable so far. Because this saves it. You see the teeny tiny inverted comma at the top? That just basically makes the whole thing a string. So if I do type word real quick, it would give you string. So yeah, we're basically taking JSON syntax and throwing it inside a string so Python doesn't complain. But we can turn it back into JSON using this thing called json.loads. So if I do, for example, dictionary equals to json.loads, and then inside here I put words. Now, my dictionary, if I print it out, should have this, which is effectively all of the data that is related to Jack, properly formatted, and you can use keys to search for values. For example, if you search for his name, it gives you Jack. So this is kind of the way you would be able to change between JSON and what is the word? Dictionaries very easily. Wow, my brain is not working today. So yes, that's kind of the way you do it. Now, to convert backwards, if you had a Python dictionary, would be similar. So let's assume that we have a Python dictionary called profile, right? In this profile, you have something very similar. So let's say you have, I don't know, Mary, for example. The name has to be Mary. I'm really stupid. The name has to be Mary. And then let's say that below that, you have, for example, profession. And Mary's profession is to be a cook. And then after that, you have year born. And the year of birth was, let's say, I don't know, 2048 or something. This is, again, completely valid and working dictionary that you can kind of mess with Python. So how do you convert it back into JSON? How do you format it? Well, you would have to use dumps, the same way you would use loads. So if I did, instead of this, I put, for example, output. If I put output equals to json.dumps words, right? And I run this, and then I print output, you should get this. And while it looks kind of confusing, this is a perfectly valid JSON string. This is a perfectly working valid JSON string. So now that you have this, you have to understand that you can mess with other data types and turn them into JSON strings, such as dictionaries, floats, integers, tuples, everything. Basically, almost everything can be turned into JSON and backwards, because JSON is very dynamic in the sense that you can store basically any kind of data on it. And yeah, it's pretty easy to convert back and forth using dumps and loads. So there are ways you can sort the dumps, for example. Like you can organize it by separator. In this case, if you have a bunch of, data that is separated by a comma, for example, or a space, you can use a separator to separate it, and you can kind of use sort keys in order to specify the result should be sort and indent accordingly. There's just a bunch of ways you can mess with it, but very likely you only need to know how to use loads and dumps pretty much in terms of JSON. If you want, yet again, like I keep stressing in all of my videos, this exists, like help JSON, just go and look it up, see what you have on here. It should be fine, just don't forget to use it, it'll make your life way easier. That's about it I have for today. It's a really short one. I just wanted to introduce JSON to you and how you can basically use loads and dumps in Python to kind of mess with it. Alright, bye.